Hi, Sam Baxendale here, co-founder of Kinetik Hiring. Now in today's Insight Demand, we're going to talk about talent acquisition in the modern market setting. Now, over recent years, talent acquisition professionals have had increasing demands placed on them, dealing with massively transformational markets that we're seeing currently in Malaysia, and dealing with new skill areas like data science, software engineering, user experience, etc. So how should talent acquisition professionals deal with these challenges where demand outstrips supply, for instance? And how has the talent acquisition function evolved? And what are the expectations that should realistically be placed on talent acquisition professionals these days? And also, what does good talent acquisition strategy look like? So here to discuss these important topics is Simon Antrobus, who's a vastly experienced talent acquisition professional with 2 decades of experience, 10 years here in Malaysia. So Simon, thank you very much for joining us today.
Cheers, Sam. Thanks for having me, mate.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself? What have you been up to lately?
So most recently, I'm doing a head of TA role, regional head of TA for a large digital startup. So we're about 2, nearly 3 years old now. I come through the ranks, agency recruitment, RPO, and now internal, which was always my end game. The evolution of recruitment into talent acquisition, into digital talent acquisition, and expectations now that they've changed a lot, and I like to think I've seen it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Cool. So I look forward to discussing these questions with you. First of all, why don't you tell us, how do you think talent acquisition has changed in recent times based on your experience, and what impact has keeping pace with digital transformation had on the role of a TA professional? So talk us through the changes that you've seen lately.
There's multiple changes, and then you've got TA 101. Some things will never change. There's certain elements. There's a lot of automation coming into talent acquisition now. Some of it good, some of it bad, in my opinion. Algorithms, bots and things like that, they can be good and they can be bad. I see them as complementary tech rather than your actual talent acquisition process. So I think a lot of companies at the moment will go down the line of, if we digitize that, if we automate it, we can save money by having an unskilled recruiter or TA person. Recruiter's a rude word nowadays, I think, isn't it? So for me, I've used those tools and I've implemented those tools. But for me, they're supplementary or complementary in terms of they can make us more efficient to create a better candidate experience. And that's where I see the main changes. When I started in recruitment, we used to fax CVs to people. I'm that old. And with email, everything else, that's made it great. But automation, digitization is great, but there still needs to be human touch points from my perspective. I don't want to go 100% digital.
So do you think the core requirements have changed or evolved, or do you think it's a case of going back to basics?
I think there needs to be elements of both. Sorry, I don't want to sound like a politician. You need your basics, you need your fundamentals to drive continuous improvement. There's always got to be a framework or infrastructure or back end to what we do. And recruitment's been around for a long time. And you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You can just have nice big shiny rims with nice tires on them, right? To make things run smoother. So from my opinion, we've always got to go back to the basics in terms of how do we attract talent, how do we engage talent, hook them, bring them on board and look after them. I think the biggest part of TA, not for everybody, but in my role and working in a smaller company, in a more startup environment, you've got lots of hats to wear. We're not sort of A to C, or A to M, we're A to Z now. In terms of, we own TA now, we own everything from candidate attraction all the way to what we call ongoing onboarding. So I own the onboarding functions, I own engagement, and we we practice what we call ongoing onboarding.
Yeah.
So I have checkpoints with candidates and with the hiring managers or line managers until the end of their probation.
Okay.
Just to make sure. I mean, the two biggest headaches for dropouts in terms of for recruitment teams and hiring managers are pre-boarding.
Yeah.
So from when they give their notice to when they start, 2 to 3 months in Asia. You know, when we started in recruitment a long time ago, right? People used to have 1 week and 2 week notice periods. Now people have got 2 months, 3 months. Yeah. Managing that, I built a communications roadmap for how we interact throughout the pre-boarding period.
So does that touch on what you think's evolved in terms of a good talent acquisition professional will look, downstream, once it's not just about attraction, it's getting them on board, and then it's actually ensuring they stay and looking at the factors that influence that?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Recruiters used to think that their job's finished as soon as someone signed an offer letter. Yeah. Hiring manager doesn't care until the person turns up on their first day. Who's looking after that candidate? Candidate experience is a big thing. Yeah. Customer experience in general, but you've got it's double faceted, right? Yeah. You've got candidate experience and you've got customer experience in terms of your hiring manager. Yeah. So we have humanized touch points now.
Yes, of course.
Because people are like, oh, you can automate it, you can send them an email through Workday or through Talio. If I'm going to start a new job in a new company, I want someone to call me up. How you doing? We're looking forward to having you on board. Yeah. We've already got your kit, your email address is ready. Yeah. We just put a new thought leadership piece up on YouTube. Here's a link. Yeah. To set people up for success for when they come in and to get them engaged before they join.
So it sounds like looking at the recruitment cycle as a longer process further downstream with sort of key customer experience points. That's a key evolution of the role of a good TA professional, and is essential for the modern competitive market by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think TA needs to be more holistic. Yeah. It can be digitized, but it still needs to be human touch points. Yeah. And definitely it needs to be less transactional. TA recruitment was always transactional in terms of job requirement, sourcing, interviewing, offer, job done. It's not. Yeah. And I think that the company that I'm working for now recognise that. They've been really, really good. So a lot of the processes and functions that we'd normally hand over to a HR team have actually come into the TA. Yeah, so it's a broader portfolio nowadays for talent acquisition. Yeah, I mean, so we do TA, recruitment, we've got pre-boarding, onboarding, ongoing onboarding, and then also engagement and culture and branding. Yes. Because if we look at employer branding, then building those personas, EVP, etc., from an attraction perspective, it's circular, right? So, we have to find the people, attract them, keep them engaged, build them into a brand ambassador. Yes. To help us attract more people. Referrals are a huge part of our TA piece now. I mean, yes. we're running at around 35 to 40% referrals. We incentivize, of course, quite well for it. But I mean, I think my first interactions with great referral programs were with Accenture. I remember my wife used to work for Accenture. Yeah. And I went to her office one day, dropped something off, and as soon as you walked into reception, there was POS, have you referred your friends? We've got X amount of positions open. And it was like, Accenture, I think, have got one of the highest referral rates for any employer. Any employer, and also any industry. Yeah. And it was quite inspiring for me in terms of driving that. So I set myself some quite tough targets in terms of having those referrals up there and driving them, because great people will refer great people. Yeah. And obviously, if your staff would need to be really into your own employer brand in order to recommend that employer as well. So it's cyclical, as you say. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So just sort of switching that a bit, looking at the candidate psychology, what do you think's changed in terms of the candidate job shopper, let's say, going out to market? I mean, what's changed in terms of the psychology and how you might, as an employer,
seek to attract those candidates, bearing in mind those changes?
Yeah, so I would say candidates are, I was going to say lazy, candidates are a lot more passive nowadays. If you've got a niche skill set, right, it's sort of come and look for me, I'm happy in my job. I think a lot more people are a lot happier in their roles nowadays. So attracting passive candidates that's the key skill of a TA professional, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's the hook, it's the networking. I build what I call, I don't like people talking about pipelining or databases.
Right.
I remember when I worked in agency and I'd go and meet potential clients and they go, how big's your database? I said, right, I can just make it up. 10 million people. Because it's irrelevant, because all you need is the best 3 CVs for those Java developers that you're looking for.
No, absolutely.
So now candidates I've seen are a lot more passive. You still do get applications for jobs, but I'm trying to take my team away from the post and pray approach. When you're working for a larger brand, you know if you post a job advert, you're going to get hundreds of applications. For me, that's post and pray. Okay, that's great, some relevant talent, but you're filtering like mad. And there should always be, relying on your network first. Who do you know? Who have you spoke to in the past? Who can we get referrals from?
So definitely changing sort of paradigm in terms of that passive point, though. And the best candidates are invariably not the ones that are going to turn up in your inbox, as you say, on a job advert.
Yeah, you can't go looking for them.
So it's a bit more like almost taking the executive search methodology as well to the mainstream market as well. Yeah, I think
post and pray, anybody can do it, and especially then when you're running a bot or you're running AI and algorithms through things to pull out keywords. I remember getting phone calls about project management roles and consultancy roles that were absolutely nothing to do with what I did.
Of course.
Because an algorithm had ripped my CV for me.
Absolutely.
And I think that can be disappointing for people who are looking for jobs. I mean, if we take into account what's happened this year, right, with COVID, there's lots and lots of really, really high skilled people looking for jobs. They've potentially been in a nice role for the past 10 years, don't really know what job seeking looks like in 2020, and especially with the virus, with Corona and everything. And it's like, they put their faith in sending their CV and writing a small cover note to be met by an algorithm that rejects them for a job that they're perfectly fine for.
Absolutely.
Because nobody looks it on the back end.
Yeah.
So for me, finding those passive guys and reaching out to people rather than relying on your tech to do half of the work for you so you can reduce costs. There's still an art in TA for me. It is an artistry, right? And being able to find those passive candidates, being able to speak with them and attract them to your culture, to your brand, to the role. That's the artistry, that's the skill.
Fantastic. And looking at sort of new paradigms like social media, a lot of people get their messaging and ideas, but it drives behaviours in terms of people's social media habits. What do you see as the role of social media in terms of the job market?
Social, I like to separate. I mean, it depends on how you define social media. So I don't class LinkedIn as social media. For me, it's a business networking platform. I hope nobody from Microsoft's watching. But for me, social media, if I'm doing multilingual customer service, IT help desk, in terms of if I'm going to do Facebook job adverts and stuff, for those type of roles, it works. Because one thing I've learned, my CEO is quite inspirational in terms of when I have my chats with him, he's like, don't write stuff for yourself, don't write stuff for the company, write for your audience or speak for your audience, because that's how you attract people and engage people. And I think so, it's horses for courses in terms of which platforms do we use to attract which type of people. In general, I mean, if we look at, let's forget about Facebook and all that, because I mean, we hire digital, data scientists, we're looking for consultants, consultancy background. advisory in terms of business insights and some of the tools that we use and sell. If we look at LinkedIn as a platform, for instance, what we've started doing is, if you just push in job adverts all the time, oh, we're hiring for this, we're hiring for this. So I've taken a slightly different approach. So what I'm trying to do now is help hiring managers and our staff and myself and my team build personal brand, because personal brand, this ties back into the EVP and engagement and what we're talking about personas, is I want people to say, I want to come and work at company XYZ because that guy, the director of marketing, is absolutely brilliant. I've seen some of the campaigns done. He's really active. I like his thought leadership pieces. Brilliant. That's a guy that I want to work for. You want him to work, you want him to associate with your brand, you want them to work for your company, but you can use your people as a traction point.
Absolutely.
And for me, helping staff build personal brand and build content and getting out there, it's a huge attraction point. Very passive one, but it really works, and that then ties into the referrals.
Absolutely. So basically, if we're talking about social media, yes, it's a great tool, it's a great platform. Really what it's driving towards is the important thing. It's about individuals as well as the company brand and the individuals that make up that brand. Absolutely. Cool. Well, look, switching the conversation a little bit, talking about the sort of bigger picture kind of macroeconomics going on in Malaysia right now. We hear a lot about supply and demand. We hear a lot about, Malaysia has sort of shallow talent pools for certain areas, demand outstrips supply, etc. What are your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to talk about talent shortages. I think they're a myth. I think they're a myth created by lazy recruiters.
Okay. Straight to the point.
Yeah, why not? That's what we're here for, right?
Sure.
We're chewing the fat. I can be opinionated. So, yeah, I mean, you said shallow talent pools. It's easier, if you want to go fishing in a pool, it's easier to fish in a shallow pool than it is in a deep pool.
Fair enough, yeah.
So if your branding's right, if your roles are right, and you're a good TA professional, shallow pools can be actually advantageous. And that's where the networking part comes in, in terms of being a good recruiter, relying on people applying for jobs versus knowing every single person in that industry. When I'm training up new staff, I'm like, if a hiring manager comes to you with a role, you should know the first three people to call for that, because you should be networked. So, I mean, when I've ran large, I've got quite a small team at the moment, so we're sort of all hands on pump, let's say startup and COVID. But when I've run larger teams, then what I've done is I've put them into verticals. So, when I used to work for a large IT services company, and I had 30 staff across the region, and it would be like, right, at the moment, you're working 2 IT sec roles, 10 customer service roles, 2 .NET developer roles, and an insurance salesman role. And it's like, right, get rid of all that. You're just going to do IT sec, and you're going to know everybody in Malaysia or everybody in Philippines in IT sec. And then your job becomes a lot easier. You three are going to do help desk, because we hire about 300 help desk staff per month. We were doing 300 hires per month across the region in my previous role. So putting people into verticals, into specializations, taking the agency model, basically, of get to know people, build a network, so we can be more efficient. We measure on time to first submittal, time to fill. You can be a lot more efficient. You can deliver better service, better customer experience, better candidate experience. So from that perspective, I think, going into shallow talent pools is all right if you know everybody.
Yes. Okay. So it actually provides a solution in itself. I guess the other thing is, I guess we've all experienced the job description that has, where they're looking for the unicorn candidate. Is there something to be said to improve the situation for employers here to just lessen their technical requirements a bit and think about transferable skill sets, think more about culture fit, values, and people that are teachable? Is that part of the solution as well?
From my opinion, yes, definitely. I have a model in terms of, it's a very, very old school. We spoke about recruitment 101 or TA 101 and fundamentals. I mean, you'll always get hiring managers that want 120% of the job description, if not more. For me, if there's 60% of the hard skills, and there's willing, and you can see that person will pick stuff up, want to learn, get engaged, for personal and company betterment, then that sometimes outweighs the hard skills. Absolutely. In terms of the attitude, approach, and cultural fit. We do hire for culture, and I think a lot of people sort of throw that phrase around. We've built it in to our. So I train hiring managers on how to interview. I like to say, opening people up with an icebreaker, a nice open question, and just getting them to talk. I would probably say, and I don't interview people anymore. No. I have quite open, candid conversations, similar to what we're having now.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
In terms of, if you start asking, give me an, BEI, it's still on my CV. I should take it off, really. Give me an example of when you've done it, and tell me how this, and tell me, and it's like, no, I'll tell you what, look, what you're doing now, who you're working for. Talk me through a day in your life. What you like, what you don't like, what pushes your buttons, what turns you off. Right? You're going to get more open answers. You're going to get more honest answers because people don't feel they're in that interview situation. For me, taking that, they should call them interrogations, not interviews, right?
Well, the old school ones,
and that for me is really, really important.
So it's kind of like moving away from box ticking, taking more interpretive approach around a JD, thinking about core skills and teachable skills, and actually working out people's values and working out a fit based on actually having a conversation. That's going to help us solve some of those perceived challenges. Very good. So again, switching the conversation a little bit, thinking a bit more about business leaders out there, GMs, CEOs, maybe they're needing to hire or look at talent acquisition and hire a talent acquisition lead, or maybe they're a new business that's just popped up in Malaysia, and they're needing to think about talent acquisition best practice, all of a sudden. What advice do you have for business leaders? I guess dealing with the first example first of all, what does a good talent acquisition leader look like? What should they be looking out for?
I think, they've got to have the core skill set. For me, even now as an internal recruiter or internal TA, I think the reason I've had the roles that I've had, coming from agency into RPO, MSP, into full internal, I've done internal previously, is agency mentality in terms of when you're looking for people, that tenacity, setting yourself goals for your team and personal goals. For me, I want to get a role filled, and I see that as that's my goal, right? I'm going to have 3, 4, 5 CVs for that. I think when people hire HR people into TA roles, I think that's where the downfall is. I like bringing, it's difficult because to get a great agency guy into an internal role is really tough, because if he's a great agency guy, he's going to be making huge money. For me, I was making great money as an agency recruiter, but my end game was always to get into a strategic TA position, share the knowledge that I've had, learn a lot. I've probably learned more in the last 2 years than I have in my previous 2 decades, in terms of how TAs transformed, and how companies and just industries have transformed in general. I would say if I was a leader looking for a TA person now, I'd look for someone who's got a solid recruitment background, but I'd also look for someone with a bigger worldview that's interested in people, that's more consultative. I like to call my staff trusted talent advisors rather than recruiters, or because we need to share insights on the market, on those type of roles, on salary benchmarking, etc. Because most people, if you're a hiring manager, you've got a very blinkered view of what you need, and you don't really look outside. It's like, I need a guy who can do A, B, and C, and I need him for this amount of money, and I need that amount. And they don't look at, well, our competitors are doing this, market's dictating that salary's a little bit higher, it's flexible working, it's blah, blah, but they have so for me, if I go and take a requisition off somebody, I don't just take a job description and go and work on it. I want to sit down. I want to have a 20-minute discussion about what's working outside that role. You know, one question, and I got challenged by my CEO because I was like, when I showed him the form, the tool that I prepared to have these conversations, because I want to document them. One of them was describe your management style, and he went, "Oh, people will be annoyed with that. You know, why do you want to know that?" And I went, "Well, when we're attracting candidates, I don't want to put someone can do, you know, they can script in Python or do whatever, but if they're not going to be culturally aligned to the company and a personality fit with that manager and that management style, you know, you got some companies, oh, as long as you turn up before 11, we don't care. And then you got hiring managers like, if somebody's not here at 9 a.m. for the scrum meeting, they're in trouble. So these are all things that we need to take into account. So I'd say flexibility, if I summarise quickly, sorry, because I know it's a very long answer to a very simple question. If I summarise, right, look for people with good recruitment skills that are result focused in terms of how do we get these people, how do we get them quickly and efficiently. And flexibility, and make sure they're really, really people and culture oriented in terms of what the company is. Don't just work off hard skills, hire for culture.
Okay, and it sounds like good talent acquisition professionals aren't afraid to ask questions, aren't afraid to delve a little bit deeper into what actually the culture of the leader is or the business is in order to extract that information. So challenging ideas, basically, be willing to do that.
You've got to ask those. You've got to ask those questions. You know, I look at you look at EVP. EVP's company level, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a buzzword.
It's terrible. I mean, we used to have it. Oh, we're a $27.4 billion company. We've got 50,000 staff across 37 countries, and blah blah. It's not an attraction point for me, mate. You're reading off a website.
Yes.
So you need to build an EVP for every role or for every hiring manager. In terms of what's the attraction point. So an example I always use is you don't do much recruitment anymore, right? You're a co-founder of a successful talent company.
Will you be surprised?
But if you look at Java development, I always go back to Java because that's what I was doing when I first came back in. There's probably about 20,000 Java roles advertised at any one time in Malaysia. So for me, if you're trying to find a Java developer, most Java developers got free offers in hand. All of them have got free offers. I don't know whether that's sort of a cult thing like the Masons, where they all tell each other that if any recruiter calls you, tell them you got free offers in hand. That's the deal.
Seems to be industry standard.
So it's what's our key differentiator? Why does someone want to come and do Java development for us rather than for somebody else? And that's not because we're a $1 billion company or this, that, and the other. It's because we work on these type of projects. We're innovating. These are our clients. These are the projects that we're doing, and that's the differentiator. Because at the end of the day, coding in Java is coding in Java, but what's the product?
Absolutely.
What's the interaction? So
so you've got to be able to get to the nub of the EVP rather than just reading off a website, and actually ask the right questions and get under the skin of it. Which is tricky.
I mean, don't go generic with your EVP would be the simple answer in terms of drill down, get role or team or project specific, because that's an attraction point, you know. So have we got enough time for, I mean, regarding Java, so here's a great example that actually happened to me. I was doing Java recruitment back in Prague. So Monster, the job board, were actually my client, their development centers in Prague.
Right.
And they were looking for Java developers, sorry. And they actually do the recruitment platform. They built it, built the recruitment platform for the US military.
Okay.
So, Army, Navy, Marines, it's all built on Monster's platform. So when I was talking to Java developers and said, do you want to go and work for Monster? They're a job board. And I'm like, you'll actually be coding, you'll be developing the recruitment platform for the US Marines recruitment site. And wow, that's mind-blowing. That's your differentiator. That's your,
that's your draw.
Your sort of drilled down role-specific EVP rather than Monster are the biggest job board in the world.
So it's really identifying those nuanced USPs that are going to attract people and have an impact on people. Cool. On to the last question, Simon. So hate to use the cliche, post-COVID, new norms, etc., etc. It's clearly a different job market these days, for better or for worse. So bearing in mind the sort of slightly different conditions or evolved conditions, however you want to put it, we all operate within. What, let's say, 2 or 3 pieces of advice you've got for companies looking to embark on a hiring sprint? Because there are companies hiring, there's still funding out there's still businesses pushing innovation. So hiring in this market, what 2 or 3 bits of advice have you got for businesses right now?
Yeah, so I mean, talking about the hiring sprint, I'm just a little bit of advertising.
Yeah,
we're hiring. We've got 30 or 40 roles open at the moment.
Yes.
I won't go into details.
Sure.
Check out my LinkedIn. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's changed. The only real change is it's a little bit harder when you're working with passive candidates to get people to move. So that, let's say it's a double-edged sword. You've got a lot of people that have lost their jobs, unfortunately, because of COVID. So talent pools have grown because there's more talent on the market because of retrenchment. On the flip side of that, it's a lot harder to get your passive candidates that have a job that they've been in safely to try and get them to move out of that role, because moving into the unknown, better the devil you know. Probably stay here until next year.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, digitizing it, Zoom calls, all of that. I would say if you have the opportunity to meet people, I mean, we can't have candidates in the office still because of our MCO here in Malaysia, but I can go and meet them for a coffee. Yeah. I still like that humanized approach. So I mean, everybody does phone screening anyway. It's part of a recruitment process now. But I would say still, if you can get a human touch point, if you can get out for a coffee to meet them safely, practicing SOPs, etc. Go and do it. That'd be the big one. Let's say.
So keep it human. Don't just rely on VC just because of SOPs. Try and find, within reason, try and find ways around that to introduce the human touch.
I hate VCs. I think they're absolutely rubbish. 9 times out of 10, if I've got to get on a team or a Zoom call, it's voice only for me. I remember the first time we spoke, actually, and you didn't know your video was on, and you sat at home eating a packet of crisps and whatnot.
Common mistake. I've worked on that now. Personal branding.
I have all my settings done so that my video never switches on. I opt in, not opt out. But I mean, even from a mental well-being, wellness perspective, through COVID, they're like, it's not healthy to be on video conferences. Try and do voice as much as possible. Get on video if you really need to see somebody. Because I mean, you can't you can read body language sort of, but you can't. It's a little bit flat. Connections, lag.
So the idea that it's a like-for-like replacement from face-to-face that's a fallacy. Okay. For interviews, definitely. Absolutely. So where possible, subject to SOPs, etc., get out and meet people as best you can. Any other advice for just to close off for today in terms of businesses looking to go out and hire en masse? What do you think's changed, and how can businesses leverage on those changes or take advantage?
Let's say retrenchment has created deeper talent pools. For me, we've not really changed anything. We've got a roadmap, we've got a goal. I mean, we're flexible, we're agile. But I think don't get confused by COVID. Don't get confused by what's going on. Right. If you're doing something really, really well, digitize it in terms of we might need to do VCs. I know we said try not to. If you've got to, do them, but don't completely change your strategy. If you're good at something, look at how do we do it in COVID, but don't completely change your strategy, because we don't need to.
Do you think there's more good candidates available? Do you think it's an opportunity for, let's say, rich pickings for companies that might not have had access to as many candidates before, that may have better access in the current market?
Because Corona, COVID, whatever, it doesn't pick and choose which industries it's going to destroy. Right.
True.
And there's lots of great people from great companies that unfortunately are now available on time. I think it's a great time to be hiring because there's talent that you could probably never ever get to leave certain companies. You know, your Googles, your Facebooks, these type of guys. They've not really been impacted, so I'm not sure whether that's a good example or not. But there's other companies in the market, if you're looking at smaller SME, where it's like, those guys have got a great culture, they got a great brand, people don't leave that company. And one thing this has done is has created talent like that being back on the market, which it's sad. I don't want to sound sort of really happy about it. I really feel for people that have been retrenched, but on the flip side of that, there's lots of opportunities. There are still lots of companies hiring, and there are opportunities.
So it's very industry specific. So, you know, so we don't want to profit off other people's misfortune, but businesses that have been directly impacted, there are people in certain functions that are going to get snapped up, and that's an opportunity for businesses that are hiring. So it's almost be a bit strategic about that and think about where you can target.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I note for candidates in terms, don't get disheartened. Don't just keep applying for jobs, right? Like we spoke earlier about algorithms and bots and AI. And, you know, I was looking for a job a couple of years ago, and it was like apply, and you know when those rejections come through that no one's even looked at your CV. I would say do a little bit of due diligence. Have a look at, I mean, one tip I always give to people is if you see a job posted on LinkedIn, sometimes this job was posted by this person. Drop them a personal note. Say, I've seen the role advertised, I don't mind applying, you know, through the system. But I just wanted to drop you a note and drop you my CV and introduce myself personally. So from a candidate perspective, humanize it as well. Don't rely on tech to think that you've got the best CV and you're the best fit for that role, even if you've got a 90% match via an algorithm.
So make yourself stand out a bit.
Humanize it yourself, reach out to people. Don't be scared to contact recruiters, CEOs, whoever. Get in touch with them.
That's fantastic advice, Simon. Well, thanks very much. That brings our Insight and Demand session to a close. Thank you for your being so candid today, answering so many questions head on. It's been great fun to have you.
Mate, it was a pleasure. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Simon.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you. Okay guys, so that's all for today. So if you're looking to get an update on all the great footage from today's interview series, remember to go to our website, www.letsgokinetik.com, or go to our LinkedIn page, Kinetik Hiring, where you'll see in the section below all of the links to all of our various online sources. So please remember to visit. Most importantly, please give your thoughts and feedback in the comment section in the LinkedIn section. And if you enjoyed the session, remember to give us a big thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. And finally, if you're really interested in getting real-time updates in terms of new releases, sign up to our newsletter and you get that on a monthly basis. So thanks very much, guys, and we look forward to you joining us for the next session.